Not well? Okay, good. So, welcome everybody. Looks to me like my level is down low. Let me see if I can just fix that. Sorry for the delays here. Okay,
All right. Oh, there we go.
there we go. Now, I want to welcome everybody, but it's hard to welcome you when your camera is off and it doesn't feel like there's any contact here. And this is all about contact. This is the human person-to-person part of the course that you've been in KabU. I know you've been accumulating insights, information, principles, but this is the point where the things that you have wondered about, um, that have confused you, or insights that you may have had. This is the time. This is the opportunity to share it here by asking questions. Now, your questions are important not just to you; they're important to everybody else who's also joining you. And along with the students from KabU who are with us right now, there are also people who are watching us in this event from the outside, people who aren't studying, people on Facebook and YouTube. And this is good. It gives them a chance to ask questions and gives them some insight into what Kabbalah study actually is. Um, and we're going to take questions from you, from the students on Zoom. That's our priority. Uh, and we'll also be taking questions from the YouTube chat and from the Facebook chat. Uh, and here to help all of us sort the questions out and work out the flow of our meeting today. Mary is here to help me. Wave, Mary. There's Mary's hand there, and Mary is a senior student of B'nai Baruch and Rav Lightman. She's also the main editor for the English department for English books here. And Mary, would you explain how we're going to take the questions and how we're going to answer them?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Tony. Welcome, everyone. I see there friends here who have been here before. Typically, Tony and I are in the studio together for this broadcast, but inclement weather is connecting us on Zoom today. So if you are asking questions in Zoom, if you could make sure that you post a question so that everyone can see it, there's a little drop down arrow just to the right of your name. If you send them to me privately, then I will still need to transfer the questions to a very expert team that we have that line up the questions and queue the questions based on the flow of the broadcast. So if you could just please remember to do that. That way we'll get your question asked as soon as possible. So again, post a question in the chat so that everyone can see it, if you would, please.
Yes, post it in the general chat, and not to Mary because she's got to handle a bunch of other things that are happening that you don't see. Um, and if your question for some reason doesn't get answered in what we're doing now, it will get answered if you take it and post it, and we're also collecting them to the forum in your semester chat, on the site. But I'll try to not talk too much this time and see if I can answer most of what's coming in. And in order to do that, again, I want to ask Rod, Nikki, Weston, W2, Angela, Dixie, and iPhone Maureen. I have a friend named iPhone as well. To please turn your cameras on, because it's very hard to feel what's going on and what you need. And Larry Katz also. Oh, a friend of mine is now the lead singer for Chicago. So it's interesting that you've got that little thing up there. Not that that means anything. Great. Thank you for turning your cameras on. As long as you got a shirt on, it's okay. Great. All right. Let's go right to the questions. Let's start right out with anything that that has concerned you, that confuses you, that you feel you need to express or ask. And as far as our friends who are watching the stream on YouTube and Facebook, you can ask anything in general about Kabbalah at all. So let's start.
Okay, and for those of you in Zoom, there's a little icon. You can raise your hand. We would love to hear you ask your question live to Tony rather than having my read it. So please feel free to raise your hand and ask a live question. So the first one that we have, Tony, comes from a YouTube viewer, Jensen Caraballo. In a world filled with billions of people and various tools for connection, why do we experience isolation, and why does it feel like most people aren't worried about this?
You know, because the appearance of those tools for connection are there to show us that very fact. They are there, they're sort of presented to us from nature in order for us to see that we don't really want to connect. Here we have an opportunity to connect on many levels using technology, and yet the proper intention, the one that would actually connect us by using these things, doesn't really exist in a stable way in our hearts at all. We're actually the opposite of that. But the presentation of this mass communication and instantaneous communication that we're getting is really a prosthesis. You know, it's like some add-on device. You just, you know, you stick it on your head and it's big and bulky and it's got transformers and the whole thing. And it's in order to tell us that that should be an inner quality, and it actually is an inner quality. But because we're crippled in that respect, it's like nature has to give us this this mechanical heart that makes us feel or where we should be feeling, but we don't because it's mechanical. Others. We don't know what to do with that connection. And in that connection, you see what we're doing with it. We're actually using that connection to steal, to hurt, to blame. There are good things, obviously, but it's just proof, and it's a clear picture that it holds for us of what we most want and the quality that we most lack, because that quality is our next step in human development. We have to have it happening in us. So that's what the wisdom of Kabbalah is for, and that's particularly why it's being revealed right now. It's in order to help us learn how to do this internally and naturally, what that technology seems to be promising us. Thanks for the question.
And another question from a YouTube viewer, Miss Tammy J. What exactly is KabU?
KabU is an online educational platform. It's a kind of a university of the laws of nature. And in it, a person can learn the basics of Kabbalah, the basic principles that sort of begin to turn your perception and develop a desire towards the right thing, because everything's motivated by desire. And so in the fundamentals, there's a couple of semesters of fundamentals. That's what happens for a person, or that's what can happen for a person. And in KabU, there are extended semesters and even an opportunity for ongoing sort of permanent connection to deepening your learning and really working on an advanced level with the methodology of Kabbalah. So the online education is about the laws of nature through learning the methodology of Kabbalah, which puts a person in touch with the primal law of nature. And it's interactive and it's online, and it also eventually provides for real contact between people and serious in-depth work in Kabbalah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tony. We have a live question from Nikki McKinney. Please go ahead, Nikki.
Nikki, unmute so that we can hear you. And
hello.
hi.
Hi. How are you? How is everybody?
We feel great.
That's awesome. I wanted to find out, how can I continue to, like, I feel great when I'm able to study and continue on my journey, but is there a way where I can stay within a state where I'm not affected emotionally by others, or that won't cause me to react in a certain way, which is not is not how I'm supposed to react. I don't know if I'm wording it right.
Yeah, you are.
I have a tendency to want to be great and want to do the right things and do what I was brought here on earth for, but I find myself sometimes being challenged a lot every day in certain instances, but except when I'm studying or I'm trying to continue on my spiritual journey.
Okay. And in a sentence, what do you want to know?
I just want to know, how can I stay in a positive, great, like I want to feel good. I know I can't feel good every single moment, but I just want to be like how I'm supposed to be. I don't know.
Okay. So thank you for the question. How you're supposed to be is exactly as you are. You're supposed to be tossed here and there. You're supposed to advance, feel, awoken, feel good. And then you're supposed to feel not that way. And then you have to consciously learn from the example, from the target that you get from the books of Kabbalah, from the methodology which you are learning, and maybe you haven't grasped it all, because this question that you're asking is a really fundamental question. This is how nature always works with us. We don't get to feel good all the time. What we get to do is to understand this very process of nature, how it advances us and pushes us. And we have to understand why it does that, what it's doing with us when that happens, and what our response, how we aim our response. Let's say when you feel good, you feel faithful, let's say. I don't know what your background is, but that's the terms that people use. Or you feel, awoken or lifted, or, you're feeling good, you feel connected, you feel kind of spiritualized. Well, that is a taste. That's not intended as a permanent state, because that feeling and the feeling of being pushed away by nature are just the poles of the ego. That's how the ego feels and perceives, and there's nothing there for us. Spirituality is not between those two things. What the method is trying to teach us is how to use those relationships that we get with the upper force, and to rise above either of those to a level in which we're not just receiving good or receiving bad. Either of those two are actually nothing. They have nothing to do with spirituality. They're all material. So what we're trying to learn here is how to accept that force, which would always happen to us anyway, and to begin to experience both the good and the bad as good, as communication by the light to us, showing us how we become consciously aimed at the right thing. It happens to us in order to develop a desire towards the right thing, not to make us happy where we are, but to develop us. And that's what it does, whether we're learning Kabbalah or whether we're not. The advantage of learning the methodology is that you get to see what that mechanism is, and you learn what to do with it in order to have you rise against the either or of the ego and into the place that is like the upper force that sees them both as good and useful. Okay.
A related question comes from Facebook, Stevie VSOP. If it is our ego that makes us think that someone suffering is bad or people dying in a plane crash is bad, once we come to attainment, do those things still happen? And do we see them as good?
I can't answer about whether they still happen, because that has to do with the change of perception in you, in your attainment. The sensation of the perfection of the intention of the upper light towards us, and the upper light is the author and substance actually of everything that happens. The plane crash, your birthday party, everything, and including your reaction and your responses to these things. None of these desires are really ours. Everything is managed by a single force that is and connects everything. We hold ourselves outside of that. So to us, in our minds, and we're constantly judging people, events, self, as if self existed. So the change in perception of reality means that we become not, well, a kind of what would be an appropriate word, like annulled to the perfection. That it becomes a decision. It's beyond decision, because it isn't a mental thing. It becomes a desire to be aligned with what is. The ego separates us and makes us want to be separated. And that separation is the cause of pain. It's also the cause of all of the perceptions that we have that make us feel pain. When we feel the actions of the upper light as our own, and when we have a similar intention, when we get to equivalence of form, we see why all those things should be the way that they are. We see what is good about them, what they are developing, that it's for the benefit of the whole, that it was actually there to get us to raise above and above and above all of that until we have the same quality. You're asking me like a metaphysical question, so I gave you a metaphysical answer. But it's actually very simple. It really is. It's a matter of feeling these things. And it's a matter of development. It takes time. It takes time. And that's why it's very important to use all of the aspects of the methodology and keep yourself focused and into a kind of a habitual use of the principles. And that eventually allows us to see first from the corner of the eye, or rather from the corner of the heart, and then eventually to completely enter it.
Okay, Mark, welcome. We'd love to hear your question. Go ahead.
Hi. So can you hear me okay? Everything's
Yeah, I
good?
hear you, Mark. Yep.
Okay, how's it going, Tony?
Good.
I wanted to say I really appreciate everything that you're doing first. And my question is, my wife and I are both healers. We have a wellness center and we treat people, and we basically work a lot with the upper force to facilitate healing and to help people who are sick. But our relationships with others, friends and people in the spiritual community, has not been easy. We find it really difficult to connect with people, to have meaningful relationships and to trust people outside of what we do. And I'm wondering why that is. Why has that been even more challenging lately as we're growing and becoming more successful and helping more and more people?
The people that you're talking about are people in your circle of healers, or are you talking about Kabbalah?
This is people in this, not in Kabbalah, more in like this spiritual yoga community. Yoga has become really popular, and that has been like an outlet for us to meet people. But I don't necessarily do yoga anymore. I'm kind of turned off by the whole experience over the last few years, and I'm trying to connect more with my roots. And I've been
Okay,
studying
I
Kabbalah
get
only for about a year.
what you're calling spiritual in terms of the larger society is not spiritual. You know, it's sensitivity. It's material. It's egoistic, and it's very important for you to begin to discern the difference between the one quality that is spiritual, which is bestowal, and everything that is called spiritual, because it becomes very, very confusing. These things are not the same. There is the term holy or kedusha means an absolute separation between the quality of bestowal and the desire for conscious connection to that, and the quality of reception. That's what the kosher laws are trying to. They're a memory device for exactly this line. Milk is bestowal. I don't know if you know about this kind of stuff. Meat is egoism. It's reception. That's why they're never mixed. This is from a Kabbalistic perspective. It's a memory device. It's not like anything you do physically doesn't really make any difference at all. Because you're dealing with helping people, and I also studied healing and was in circles of that. Things are very vague as far as what is spirituality and what isn't. The reason that you're having a problem with being close and trusting and so on is that it's the same as everything else in the world. It doesn't matter that it's art. It doesn't matter that it's medicine, that it's healing, or that it's alternative healing. The only place where we can actually develop a conscious desire to love other people is in a group of people who all share that same desire. That has to be there first. That's what this collection of people is. People who are attracted to learn this are all people who have what we call the point in the heart, which is that what they want is a connection purely with the quality of bestowal above everything else. When you know that you're working with people like that, then you understand that every action that they're doing is in order to reach that. And ultimately, it's in order for you to reach it, and you can't reach it without them. If you're looking to find, and it takes a while to develop this as well, but it only happens within a group of people sharing the same desire, because love and that kind of connection is the connective force of desire. In the world in general, that's not the desire. There's an opposite desire. There's a desire to be powerful, influential, wealthy. It's the best healer with the biggest practice, healing the most people. But here there's only one thing that we should stop feeling ourselves and our concern and begin to be absolutely concerned with others. And you said one other thing too, and this is why I said, well, I'm not speaking short today, am I? I'm really going into detail here. You said we use the upper force. That's not true. what you do is you kind of annul to the fact that healing is part of nature itself. The upper force is bestowal. That's it. So what I can address here is that there's some confusion, and you need to be able to draw the line. You don't need to disconnect, though. You just need to be clear that the work in spirituality consists of this, and the work in your practice and healing and the community around that is there. They're not contradictions to each other, but you cannot achieve spirituality there. You can later bring it. You can later bring it, into your whole life sphere, but that's not spirituality.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
I was muted. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I totally understand. I understand that, and I think that my heart wants everyone to be on the same page too, and it's just not. You know how it is.
Yes, I do. But when your heart is connected in the right way, it makes everything else on the same page within you and within the circle of people that you're working with, because that's you, not you. You're not you. You are ultimately the connective force between people. And what you want, you can achieve that, but you can only achieve it through working with the laws of nature, not just because you have a good heart.
I understand.
It's a good question. It was worth me blabbing about it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mary?
Thank you, Mark. Next question, Tony, comes from a Facebook viewer, Nicholas Kirk-Troyani. How can I live as a Kabbalist in a world with very few Kabbalists? How can I survive and, above all, give in a world full of the will to receive?
Well, you already are alive in this world, and you are surviving. You still alive? Can you still hear me? You are here, and all you need to do is to join with other people who have this same desire. It will strengthen you many times over. It will clarify for you what it is your heart really wants, and it will give you the opportunity to reach it. What seems against what you want is that's intentionally given to you from above. We are made to feel that it's not possible, and that's purposeful by nature. But it is possible, and all you need to do is to learn how it works, and that's there in order to make us desire the ability to bestow, which is something that we don't have. And as you begin to work with this, it takes you above those limitations. You begin to see that isn't even you. Those aren't even your fears. Those are things that are given to you in order to strengthen you and to get you to the conscious connection of desiring to be able to do this. And nobody can do it alone. So get connected to other people who have this same desire, and that will teach your heart.
Okay, thank you, Tony. The next question comes from YouTube viewer Hel Winhay. My paternal side is Jewish. I grew up in a Reformed temple, but I know that I am not accepted as a Jew. Should Kabbalah be involved in my life? Also, why is Judaism maternal?
Kabbalah is not Judaism. Judaism and other religions began after humanity lost its conscious connection with the upper force and turned what used to be experience into formal ideas. The whole point is to have direct experience of our relationship with the upper force. Judaism is a set of memory devices that were created by the Kabbalists for a time in which correcting the heart was not possible, because things had to evolve so that it would involve all of humanity. That's what the last 2,000 years have been about. And now we're at a point where this knowledge is accessible to all people. And again, it has nothing to do with religion. Israel means directly to the creator, Yasher El, Israel. And that is a quality in a person who has evolved, to a certain point, that above everything else, the only thing that you want is to have a direct connection with the upper force, with the force of bestowal. Anybody who has that is Israel and can be, and can learn and benefit from Kabbalah. The world in general can benefit from the general laws that Kabbalah has to share about unity and connection. But a person in particular who has this desire, the treasury is open. You can come and take whatever you want. It has nothing to do with how you were born, whether by mother or by father, whether you're Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist or nothing. It has to do with the quality of desire and your evolution. So, but the forms that we got that became Judaism and became Christianity and became Islam, and also were shared to the East, they are all things from Kabbalah. Why? Because Kabbalah is the laws of nature in their fullness. They're ancient and they were always passed down, but only to those people who had the desire for it. Now the desire is quite general across the world. So that's why I say that we say that the treasury is open. Mary?
Okay, next question. Hi, bonjour, Tony and Mary. Bonjour, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Yeah, say bon te voir. So good to see you. It's Jenny from Toronto. Really nice to see you. I've been experiencing very strong resistance, especially since I came back from the retreat at the Poconos this summer. I tried to advance in my studies, but I cannot understand nor connect with the readings as much as I did in the past. I am so frustrated with myself. My mind is just refusing to absorb the teachings, but my desire to connect is there. This disconnection has me feeling stupid, guilty, simply unhappy. I feel like I lost my ability to sense a creator in my daily life. If I try again, this will be my third time redoing the same course on Kabbalah. That's a lot, her exclamation point. Please, and any advice you have on overcoming this resistance? Thank you.
Jenny, are you in a 10? I think you told me this before, but I don't remember. I see you there. Can you just turn your mic on? Because you asked a very complex question. Go ahead.
No, I'm not in a 10 yet.
Okay, so here's the thing. You've been around for a while, and if you haven't completed the course, then you haven't moved to the place where you're going to have the opportunity to do and get the help for exactly the thing that you're up against. Well, you should be up against that. But, if you're being like, if you've got, you're distracted by other things in your life, which happens to everybody, and it's not possible for you, talk to the people at Kabbalah, or just finish the course, just finish it, and then move on to the more advanced stuff, because that's where you're going to get all the help. You're depending on yourself, on the books, and on ideas, and on old inspiration. But nature has moved. I can't hear you.
I don't understand any of it. That's my issue. When I read, I can't understand anymore.
Well, you're not supposed to understand. It's supposed to change you, and the forces that are working on you are changing you, and they're creating a desire in you for something. You know, it's become a lot more important to you. This is not like, oh, that's a good idea. Now I feel, oh Lord, I feel you, you know, and all this. It's not like that. That's not how nature works with us. It works by making us realize that it's not us. That, I mean, it's not me. And we only move towards things that we desire. We never move because it's a great idea. We move because on the gut level, we're hungry for it. We absolutely need it, or we're afraid of losing our contact with it. That's what you're saying, right? So just, I mean, what are these courses? You could skip through it's just a matter of time and, you know, and answering a bunch of like questions that are not even really questions, and move on, and then get to the place where you're going to get the support. That's all. And there's nothing to know. You know, at the beginning, knowing changes your world, but where you're at, no, it's now about the gut. You're starting to need and perceive. So move to the place that's going to support that.
Thank you.
Thank you for opening your heart and asking your question, Jenny. It was very important. Thank you. Next question comes from a Zoom viewer, Nikki. Welcome, Nikki. Is it detrimental to smoke weed or drink alcohol, or any drugs for that matter, when pursuing Kabbalah?
You know, it's not that simple. If it depends on why you're doing that, you know. Is weed your weed your church? You know, is it supposed to connect you or like give you some insight? Because if you're using it for that, that's destructive. That's like mechanical. So you're in a mode of reception. Alcohol. I mean, these things in themselves are neither good nor bad. But if they're replacements for your own effort, and if you think there's something spiritual in them, then they will just anchor us to our egoism. In general, I mean, I don't like weed, you know, and that kind of thing. And I used to when I was a lot younger, because I was, you know, a musician, and that was the world I was in. I don't like it. You know, I find that it creates sort of two worlds, and neither of them are any good. So, but that doesn't mean that somebody else. Some people need it. They need it for health reasons. It just can't. It's not spirituality. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to be addicted to something. That's the main thing. And if it is an addiction, then you need to, then it's not that you're going to replace it with Kabbalah. You have to deal with addiction the way that addictions are dealt with, or any other illness. It's not recommended, but it's also not, you know, it's a desire like everything else. And it's more about for whom you're doing it. And mostly drugs, we're doing it for me. I don't mean Tony. I mean like you're me, not my me.
Okay, next question is from Thirdborn Alex from DC on YouTube. Kabbalistic meditations work by focusing on Hebrew letters, but the alphabet as used in the Zohar is an evolution from Paleo-Hebrew, whose letters look very different. So how does it work?
There's no meditation in Kabbalah. There are no letter meditations. Those books that talk about it that way are written by people who never had a teacher in the lineage of Kabbalah. They're a misunderstanding of what letters are and why they would be put together. And Hebrew is not like any other language. Hebrew is formulaic in the sense that it's talking about, I mean, these are formulae of states And without experience of those states, they don't have a meaning at all. So you can't meditate on them. And Kabbalists don't meditate because meditation is an individualistic pursuit. It brings a person into the separation, into the shattering, whereas Kabbalah is the bringing together of all the parts that were shattered into a complete whole as a single being. So we don't separate ourselves in any way. And I'm from the point of view of the teachers that and the lineage of Kabbalists that we learn from, there isn't any meditation. There are no physical things. There are no mental or psychological tricks. None of that. It's a head-on grasp of working with the intention to be connected with the upper force through connection with other people. And that's why meditation is an anathema. It is the opposite of the methodology of Kabbalah. And I know there are many, many books, and for a long time you could only get false books. And it wasn't until around 1995 that any actual Kabbalistic books became available in general. And they only come from a certain lineage that's been around for thousands of years. Those books are not Kabbalah. And even physicists who use these things and can find all kinds of connections, that doesn't mean anything. That's just the crystalline form, the perfected form of reality that shows that there are connections between things. That isn't the point. The point is, what's our connection to each other? And because the spiritual force, the upper force, does not exist in the individuals. It's not in the letters. It's not in us as individuals. It's in what connects us. That's the thing that the heart needs to learn to desire.
Tony, another student, Muhib, is also seeking clarification on Kabbalah. The question is, Hermetic Kabbalah is not really Kabbalah, but is it a sort of Kabbalah?
There are no sorts. There is one goal, and that goal is the connection with the upper force, meaning to cleave to and be in equivalence of form with the intention to bestow, with a desire to bestow. We don't have that in our nature, and the goal of Kabbalah is only that, to allow a person to rise above their nature and to become similar within their desire to the desire of the force, the one force that creates, sustains, and guides everything. And it's done in very specific ways, with specific material, and those materials are more or less appropriate for different generations. For instance, the materials that are in the library, so to speak, of B'nai Baruch, the teachers in those books, are the ones that speak to this generation. Today, it's not just Hermetic Kabbalah that is, kind of, that we can't really do anything with and isn't really Kabbalah, but even things that are Kabbalah, like the 5 books of Moses, we cannot understand that language. We can't hear it, whereas previous generations could hear it. They didn't have the dense egoism that we have, and could understand that language wasn't talking about anything physical at all. It was all talking about inner work of a person, states of a person. We read it now, and we just simply cannot hear it any other way than physically. We don't understand what it's alluding to at all, and all of its interpretations, the ones I grew up with, and they were like supposedly the best and so on, they don't even come close to it. According to what you want and what we need as a generation, an incarnation of humanity at this point, it's only this very direct Kabbalah that speaks to our level of egoism, and is there in order to correct it. And that's why we can hear it and see it and feel it and use it. We can't use any of those things anymore. Even if Hermetic Kabbalah had some power in it to help transform us, not anymore. Mary?
Okay, yes, this comes from Third Born on YouTube. I'm confused. Isn't Hippolyte a form of meditation? Going into nature and trying to connect?
Hitbonenut means contemplation. It means, it actually comes from, from the word discernment in Hebrew. No. I've read those books too. You're talking about Aryeh Kaplan and stuff. No. If you look, if you feel close to that and you want to try it out, go ahead. But the place in which these things are activated are between people who are studying. You don't get it from books, and you don't get it from people who aren't Kabbalists who write books. You only get it from the lineage of Kabbalists and working with other students, and it's actually the other students that are really the most important part of this. These people, like all of you guys seeing each other on the screen, eventually you're going to understand what we are through your connection with each other. I understand why you're asking it. I and many people went through exactly those things, tried to find books, tried to understand it individually, tried to open it up, but those things are very confusing. As soon as you come in contact with a real Kabbalist, they start to explain things to you that are like, of course, I always knew that. It's so clear. How come I couldn't get it from anyplace else? It's because your desire wasn't ready. The place that you were at was not a correct environment. It's all about environment. Wisdom is the connection with environment. And that's why lineage of teachers is important, why studying with other people is important. Because we are not individuals, we are this. And this is how we get to experience that.
Okay, thank you, Tony. These are great questions, by the way, friends.
Yeah, good.
Clarify what Kabbalah is, what Kabbalah isn't, because 1 degree off in the wrong direction can take you in a completely different trajectory. So here's another related question from Facebook viewer Jessica Cha. If our original one soul fractured, do you think we're coming back together? If so, are twin souls, twin flames, etc., something that relates to Kabbalah at all?
The purpose for us being shattered is the same reason why a kid will take a clock apart, in order to learn how to put it back together. What is it? What's in there? And how do I put it back together? The shattering was purposeful. We are all soulmates. There is no such thing as like a twin soul or a soulmate. You feel that in particular about one person or another because of your desire or sensitivity in that particular point or towards that particular point or person. Your heart open to that degree that you see its perfection and similarity. It is you. Love your friend as yourself, my twin soul. But the goal and where we're all headed right now is love your friend as yourself across humanity. Feel everybody, like a mother cares for a child. That is our actual state. The twin soul thing, it means that we're looking down like a straw at the quality of love and connection. It's just our very narrow egoistic penetration into the quality of life itself, which is completely holistic and interrelated. But you're just seen across a tiny cross section, and that says, coincidence or twin soul. But actually, that is the quality of reality itself.
Here's a question from Dana Bernbach on YouTube. I have studied via Dr. Lightman's website and taken some online Kabbalah courses, studied and read on my own. I would like very much to study with Kabbalah, but how can I go deeper?
Okay, good. Well, that's why we have this Q&A to help the students here and to let other people know how they also can study. Let me just show you something. Okay, so that big, huge sign is the next opportunity for people who are interested to begin learning. There's Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2. There's sort of 2 steps, 2 semesters. There are many more courses, but this is an online interactive course. And if you could put the links in the chat so that our friends on Facebook and YouTube can check out the link and see if they're interested in doing that. It's the next interactive course starts December 29th, and check it out. We'd love to work with you too, and for you to have people to help you on your path. And I don't just mean me and the other people who volunteer and work at KABU, but also the other people who you will find there. You know, you can go through your whole life thinking you're the only one who sees and feels this way. And if you even talk about this stuff, people say you're nuts. And you feel it in your heart as a reality. And you get to the point where you think, well, I'm never going to talk about this again. I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to do something else. When you meet other people, you come in contact with people who have this point in the heart. That deep loneliness of what's real in life, that starts to dissipate. And it's the difference between this and being alone is like, and it's just that alone is worth the little effort that it takes to learn some of this. By the way, there are people working with me, all of the people who run KABU and who are running this this event right now. They're all volunteers. They're watching, they're helping. They started out like you, and just evolved to want to provide this for other people, and helping us today. All of us today are Melody, Vesna, Ruth, Rachel, Neve, Gilad, Gianni, Dima, Joseph, Elena, Linda, and of course Mary, who you see on the screen. And that's because our relationship with each other is one where we're trying to do for the whole. And that's what we're trying to learn, and you know what you're trying to learn. Okay.
Tony, Dana is also asking, I can't seem to find a teacher. How can I connect with the Baha Salam lineage?
Sign up for the course. There are no individual teachers anymore. There's no direct passing of the wisdom from teacher to student any longer. The whole generation, humanity as a whole, is undergoing correction right now. It's moving into spirituality, and we move into spirituality not as individuals, but as the collective that we are. All of humanity is a single creature. That's what enlightenment is, to experience reality in that way and for others, because that's the quality of spirituality. So it's not about a teacher passing knowledge on. It's about all of us coming into the reality and feeling the reality, being transformed, so that what we sense accurately, that we're not in illusion about, well, we're just individuals. We are individuals, but what is that individual? Who is that individual? Love your friend as yourself. It's all yourself. All of these people that you see, these are your own qualities projected outward so that you can correct them. So the way that you learn to do this is not by trying to seek out a teacher. Any individual teacher you find is going to be a charlatan. You do it by learning the principles and connecting with other people. And the next course starts on the 29th. So just check that link out.
Okay, Tony, we're going to go to a live question. Welcome, Dixie Keithley. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. Do you subscribe, or does Kabbalah subscribe to obtaining a birth chart and using that to help correct your path or your life?
The only way to correct yourself is in relation to your intention towards others. Anything that has to do with, I mean, it's valuable for certain things, it's like a chart of the will to receive. It tells us mechanically what will happen to a person if they don't develop. So that's why it's possible for astrologers on one level and prophets on another level to determine what can be for a person or for humanity as a whole. Because if we don't change, then we are under the influence of the general mechanical forces of the will to receive, which are expressed as the stars and as planets, as the forces, the material forces in the cosmos. So that's not correction. That's like GPS of the will to receive. Spirituality and correction is, as maybe you know this, there's nothing new under the sun, that Solomon said. Solomon was a prophet. Above the sun means above the will to receive. So while those things may be useful, in our general planning of our lives and so on, they are not of any use in terms of correction and spirituality. A person has to rise completely above that level, to be above the sun, so to speak, in order to be only connected to the force of bestowal and not to the force of reception. Better explain what that was.
Gotcha. I think that totally caught you by surprise. What that means, friends, we're going to a blitz. Tony has 3 minutes to answer as many questions, short answer form, in 3 minutes as possible. So let's see if you can beat the 11 that you answered this morning in those 11 minutes.
Okay, so if your question is in here and I answer it really short and you don't feel satisfied, blame Mary.
Okay, guilty. Actually, during the broadcast, if you don't get your question answered today, if you're a student, please remember you can always take your question to the forum and it will be sure to be answered there. So, all set, Tony?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Could a person implanted with artificial heart have the same spiritual experience?
Yes.
That was easy. Is there a Kabbalistic equivalent to enlightenment? Is it a conscious choice to become enlightened?
No, it's a conscious desire, but it comes from above. We don't do it.
What is the Kabbalist opinion of Jesus?
Studied at the Sanhedrin, reflects many of the Kabbalistic concepts. That's about it.
Is Kabbalah philosophical?
It is not philosophy. It is science. It's direct experience and it's measurable.
Is it safe to say the creator is the universe?
It is unsafe to say such a thing.
Are every activities been recorded? If yes, is this recorded information used by the upper force?
I didn't catch that. Sorry. What was the beginning of it?
Are every activities that have they been
recorded? Yes, and we are the witnesses for that.
Was Muhammad a Kabbalist?
Likely.
If we don't have free will, then how can we answer back to people in conversation so quickly, like Tony? I added that.
Damn, I don't know.
Hi, what's your thoughts on the healing powers of Kabbalah to cure illnesses and diseases?
It doesn't. It's just if we operate with the right intention, then we are aligned with health.
Is Kabyu the only place for authentic Kabbalah teachings?
I don't know, but I know that Kabyu is authentic.
Does Kabbalah explain artificial intelligence?
Yeah, but that's a long story.
Can you expound on the dark night of the soul and why does this happen?
It happens in order to advance us so that we will desire to be connected with the Creator, even when it doesn't do anything for us.
Kabbalists say humans have 50 emotions or 50 quote unquote locks and keys. Are these spiritual degrees?
Yes, they are degrees.
Are we a Reshimo?
We don't exist. Reshimo is just the light touching us.
What could be a conclusion and implementation of the course?
I don't know, a nice party.
What are the 125 spiritual degrees?
They're just a way of splitting up, starting from being separated to being completely connected.
Why does Kabbalah say Israel will deliver the nations from Israel? Or from evil, sorry. Why does Kabbalah say Israel will deliver the nations from evil?
Because Israel is the desire for direct connection with the Creator, and when that direct connection is open, it flows to everything.
How do I employ the middle line?
You can't now, you have to learn more.
Would you say that just listening to Baal Salam's articles can help connect for those currently busy with everyday life?
Yes, especially if you don't understand what they're saying, because it makes you want to.
What would you recommend to read? Oh, stop. Sorry, I was so immersed in the questions.
Yeah, I thought it was going on a bit, but they all count, don't they?
They all count.
Okay.
You were up to, I think, 15. So awesome. High five over Zoom. Nice job. Okay, great questions too. I was immersed there. So I gave you a few extra seconds, Tony.
Okay.
Okay, so great job. Okay, so going back to... Okay, so now we have Lawrence asking the question, does a spiritual ascent resemble a spiral or helix trajectory upwards?
Well, there can't be an ascent unless there's a descent aspect to it. So that's what would account for a kind of a spiral. And what's meant there is just that if you take like a middle point, it's not that it's smooth sailing, that our growth is smooth sailing. And it's not just Kabbalah, it's everywhere. It's in nature as well. That's why you get that perfect, pi spiral. The degree from which we fall from zero, since it's a circle, is also the degree to which we rise above it, and it expands. And so when we fall lower, and when we rise higher. And if we didn't fall, we couldn't rise. Everything is perceived through the comparison, through the difference between states. So our disconnection, our loss of faith, the dark night of the soul that was like one of those blitz questions, is there in order to bring an extreme experience of light. And by the way, the reason we feel darkness is because we are exposed to a higher dose, so to speak, of light. And it shows us our real condition compared to that. It's not that we're in darkness. It's that we are in dissimilarity with what we have just been exposed to. And we feel that we want to be connected to that. And eventually we do. If you're working with this process, you do eventually take that example and rise to it. And then you're not done until we're in completeness. So that's why you get this sort of evolving spiral.
Okay, very nice question. Next one comes from Sonia Yosefov on Facebook. How can we not be influenced by different desires? For example, at the workplace, and no matter what you do, be focused on your group work. Keep that environment no matter what the outer circumstances.
Well, you can't not be influenced. See, Kabbalah uses the fact of the forces of nature, and one of the primary force is the force of society. Because what's valued by the society that you're in is what you'll value. What you want to be is what the society holds as its ideal. So anytime we place ourselves in a particular environment, we are influenced by those things. That's why the choice of environment is extremely important. But once you're in an environment that has to do with your goal, that's how you get there. The way you get to a goal is not by forging ahead on our own, but by choosing an environment that is aimed at the goal that you have. So if you have a spiritual environment, the maximum amount of help and support you're going to get is while you are in that environment. when you're out in the workplace, don't worry about it. Just do what needs to be done there, because you're serving them and they're paying you to serve them. You're providing a service for that. And that is providing your sustenance, and you need bread. You need your sustenance in order to do the spiritual work. Eventually, and it takes a while, once you start working closely with people, there is an overlap, and you can still feel that connection regardless. You don't have to be on the phone with them or anything like that. You still feel and can work with it, but it's still a struggle, because the whole thing with us is that we tend to fall back into our nature, and that's what that whole spiral is about. Don't fight that, and don't expect that what you gain in the study is going to immediately turn up out in the world. It eventually changes you, and you see a different world. But don't expect one-to-one changes like in self-help. It doesn't work that way. It evolves the same way that a child evolves over time to become an adult.
Okay, let's go to a live question. We have Sandro here who would like to ask a question, Tony. Go ahead, Sandro. Sandro Fixetta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, Tony. Hello, Mary. Nice to see you. Yeah. My question was, what's the difference between Kabbalist and Jewish?
Kabbalah deals with the inner work, the actual experiential connection with the intentional level of existence. Judaism doesn't deal with that at all. It deals with the formality. It's not that they're you can't have really good and nice people, serious and intelligent people in religion. It's just that nobody teaches this. That's what it was, but it's been lost. It sort of got separated off at the destruction of the Second Temple, and while it was the center of that nation, was completely about what Kabbalah speaks about. And Kabbalah is not a thing in itself. It's nature, really. It's like how we relate to the upper force. They kind of separated. Now it's both things are really useful. If religions weren't created, we wouldn't have been able to hold on to the basic concepts and feel them as our own. For instance, if you grew up as a Christian or as a Muslim, once you start to become exposed to the actual intentional level that gave birth to or was reduced into religion, you recognize it and you say, I know this, it's mine. I heard it. It was there in my scripture. So it's like an implanted seed, but the living part of it, the thing that never got encrusted, was Kabbalah. Religion and Kabbalah are different levels. That's all. They're sort of consistent with each other, but you don't get the same thing from one as you do from the other.
Okay, next question comes from Imran Anand on YouTube. Is it practically the brain or the heart that deals with Kabbalah?
It's the heart. Because our brain or our reason is just an operating system for our egoism, for the will to receive. It doesn't come first, it comes after. There's a desire, and then there's like ping, 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 ping. Then there's this whole system that goes, and this is how I get that desire. And the point of our reason is to use separation in order to get what you want. And that's why there's a kind of mechanism to it. The heart is about need. It's about desire and the satisfaction of need, either for myself or for others. And that is the work of the heart. And eventually that's the thing that we learn, that wisdom has got to do with the heart. It has nothing to do with the brain.
Okay, question coming in related to an earlier comment you made. The third born is asking, wait, is Tony saying we should be as evil as possible to bounce back to be as good as possible?
Well, what you're calling good and evil are not what Kabbalah is speaking about. When you say evil, you may mean doing bad and harmful things, but the revelation of evil doesn't mean it's just it's like the word is misunderstood these days. It's just separation, distance from the desire to bestow, distance from the quality of the Creator. That is, we fall into our own nature. And we're not judging, actually. Kabbalah does not judge desires at all. It looks, we have to self-judge and self-evaluate our actual intention. Why, what am I doing by my attitude and my judgment of this person or the other person? Who's going to benefit from this action? How do I overcome the separation that I feel towards actually towards all people? That's what is called darkness or evil in Kabbalah. The evil inclination is the inclination to separate. And we're all stone cold loners, because that's the only thing that was ever created by the Creator, by the upper force, was that quality, that what they call the heart of stone, which is the desire to separate, the desire for, like, get me some space between me and the next person. I hope it's as far as from here to the moon, is really at our core. So we're either, that's our nature. That's okay. It was given to us because through this we can begin to feel what its opposite is. And that's the only way we perceive anything. Our desire perceives through the difference between what we have or don't have and what we feel that we need. It's only there that we have a vessel that can be filled with the light. So it's not becoming evil. You can't help this. You're made this way, and it's supposed to be your major tool. But it freaks everybody out. We think there's something wrong with us, just me, because I am this way. No, we were made this way because that's the only way to evolve. And everything in nature actually works this way. Like the force of gravity is that. What we think of as forces, they're all intentions. Okay.
Okay, Jenny, thank you for posting another question. Jenny's question is, rainbows and other spiritual paths may mean a physical reminder of the alliance between the Creator and its creatures. What is the Kabbalist viewpoint on rainbows?
Rainbow really refers to a covenant, meaning it is a commitment of the heart to always serve others. That there will be peace, that will no longer destroy the world by water. Water is bina. It is the force of it's the force of giving. That what will be given will only be given purely for the well-being of the whole. See, Kabbalah doesn't really speak that way, and any reference to a rainbow or the word that gets translated as rainbow has got to be seen in the context of all of the forces that were in the phrase in that particular place in the Bible, and we're not at that level to be able to. Better to work far more directly just with Kabbalah, which works directly on your desire, than to try to look at the meaning of symbols. There's nothing symbolic. The signs are actually things that we feel. They're things that we experience. They're actual perceptions. That's a sign to us. Anything else is philosophical. It has to be something that you say is real. And that's what we measure. We don't measure ideas. We measure experience.
Here's a really great question from Yvette, a very commonly asked question, by the way, Yvette. Where is our free will if everything, thoughts and desires, come from the Creator?
Well, that's an idea, and I conveyed that idea, which is in in all of the books. But that's not a reality to you. So you're asking this question as though you're taking that information, saying, well, then therefore, what the heck, what have I got to do with all of this? But you don't feel that way. Really look at it. You actually don't feel that. You feel you have free choice about absolutely everything, and you blame yourself for everything, or you blame other people, not just you. We all do that. That's the experience you're having. The only reason that Kabbalah early on tells us about that there's none else besides that force, none else besides him, the force of bestowal, not he, but masculine meaning force of bestowal, feminine meaning force of reception, both of them existing in us. The only reason we learn that is so that we can start asking the very question you're asking. Where actually is the free will? There is free will. But how do we get to that in a place where really everything is designed for us in order to reach that? How do we find freedom in this life? And the first place we find freedom is by the correct choice of an environment. That is a free will choice. You don't have to do this at all. There's no coercion here. You don't want this? Don't take it. You don't need to. When you need to, you will. But there comes a point where the Creator's desire for you and everything that is expressed through us becomes your own desire. It's like it is your desire, but you have to, just like you don't feel like the Creator does everything, you also don't feel like this is your desire either, but it is. So it's sort of the quandary between those two things that actually bring us to complete freedom of will. Would you accept it if it wasn't yours? It would still be freedom of will. Okay.
Okay, next question is from Mitch Pearson here in Zoom. Is there such a thing as spiritual death?
No. The distance from the quality of bestowal, once you have experienced the desire for it, feels that way. And if we don't accelerate our work, rather than you don't just flow down a river. Otherwise, you're just under the stars. It's mappable and predictable. Acceleration in our work and effort in our work. That's what moves us forward. How was the question put again?
Is there such a thing as spiritual death?
Yeah, that's if we don't accelerate, and once we've chosen to go that way, then we start to feel deadened. And if we stop growing, then it's called spiritual death, but it's what happens in our heart. It's not, there's no death. It's just a disconnection from the upper force in our heart.
Okay, another question comes from Imran Anand on YouTube. How does physical and spiritual evolution differ? How did spirituality evolve?
They don't differ. It's our perception that makes a split between the two of them. All evolution works based on the evolvement of desire. And there is a plan in creation, and that plan is that there should be a creature, and that the creature is evolved to complete fulfillment. Creature is a desire, and that evolution is what makes us, we begin by seeing the physicality of the world. The spiritual quality for us, we don't take it as what it is, and we throw all of these inner qualities externally. So we see a cosmos, we see planets, we see people, we see problems, we see separation, we see all those, and we feel it, like right down to our toes, we feel those things. But it's all spiritual evolution. But it only becomes spiritual for us when it becomes a conscious connection with aiming at the desire to be able to want to bestow without thinking of the self, thinking of the whole system. So they're the same, and what we're trying to do is to change our perception of reality to understand that it is all spiritual, to live that.
Hey, Tony, Yvette has an excellent question considering we as students connect mostly online. How can we make such corrections if we only connect with each other online? And I feel we don't really have a chance to know the friends deeply.
Well, if Yvette, if you can sort of add to that, where are you at in your studies? What semester are you in?
Yvette, you can feel free to
She's
open
in the
your
graduate environment.
mic.
Okay.
Yeah, Yvette's here in Zoom.
She wrote it's the graduate environment. Well, as you know, in the graduate environment, you are, so that's what you're referring to. You are working virtually, but you are actually working in a circle, like in a tent and with other people. So you're working with the forces between people. Well, we have different sorts of opportunities, and we're all somewhat in that situation. There are very few physical groups. There are a few in North America. Most people have a virtual connection. Now, almost everything can happen and can evolve in the virtual space. But that's why we hold congresses. There are some big congresses, which are like thousands of people coming together, all with the same desire, spending a few days together, studying with Rav Lightman, who is the teacher of B'nai Baruch. He's the Kabbalist. The rest of us we're kind of instructors. We're his students. And there's something that happens in a physical gathering that is extremely powerful, and it makes really evident and concrete what it is you're learning, what it's really about. You can sort of in your heart, you can get, in a couple of days what it would take you a year to discern. But that's not to belittle the virtual connection, because there's plenty of evolution there as well. It's just that if you go to a retreat or you go to a congress or something like that, and you're in like a large group of people who all are aimed at the same goal, the amount of light there and the way in which you feel and the way that we kind of open ourselves in that situation, we really feel the light there and really tangibly feel the connection. It really sustains a person, can sustain you for a long time. It's good to get those clarifications, and eventually you want things to be real that way.
Jensen Caraballo also has another question. What are the qualities of the Creator?
Well, there's only one quality, that is unconditional giving. It's to supply life itself, to evolve it, and to fulfill it constantly without a single change in it. It's a single quality, which is, we experience it as life. But it's also what we see reflected in nature, how nature is always interconnected, serving the whole organism, completely integrated and synchronized in order to produce fruit, like what is needed at any point. Even planet building is like that. Why? Because it's selfless and it evolves, and ultimately it is evolving so that we can now stand on this planet and learn to do exactly the same thing towards others and towards all of that, which is actually part of us. All of nature and its different strata are really part of us. We're supposed to be the conscious part of that is similar in form with the upper force, and that's the way that we're going to bring goodness to the environment and to our societies and to everything. It's a single force, single quality.
Tony, Yochanan Mariano Perez has a beautiful question related to the one that Jensen just posed. If bestowal is the only spiritual quality and the creator is the quality of bestowal, does that mean we need to become the creator in order to bestow?
We have to become like the creator. We have to develop that quality of the desire to give selflessly. We have to rise above our created nature to include it as well, but to rise above it and be similar in form to that quality of the creator. That puts us in contact with it, makes us a conduit of it. And it's not us at that point. It is the same force as the force of the creator. It's not that we become God, replace God, anything like that. It's that our resonance, what our desire becomes similar in form with the creator. That's what's called cleaving to the creator. It means that what we see, feel, want is the same as that force. Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left. I see what you've written there, Mary. Are there enough to do it, or not?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Because there's so many questions pouring in today. So like before, Tony, you have 3 minutes to answer as many questions as possible. So starting the timer now. Could Kabbalah guide us to grow in IQ?
It does, but that's a byproduct.
How do you use Kabbalah?
You don't use it, you learn it.
How about astrology or life paths? How does Kabbalah view these concepts?
I answered that before.
Okay, why does Kabbalah say Israel will deliver the nations from evil?
Answered that before.
Okay, how can we experience there's none else besides him?
Keep trying, and you experience it in your heart towards others, and you need to ask for help for it from him.
How do spiritual experience, such as experiencing the bright light and the love of the divine, fit into Kabbalah?
It's an awakening. It should lead you to a place where you don't just receive it, but you build that and give it.
Is the goal of Christianity to create a Jew?
Yeah.
Are we all connected even if we don't feel it?
Absolutely. We don't feel it, and we are.
If Torah is written in the language of branches, is it saying it was not part of history, or is it part of history? Is it the current reality as also the branches?
It's not history. There is no time and space. We feel time because of changes of states. Language of branches is about those states.
Kabbalists have been persecuted throughout history. Are we prone to be the same, persecuted?
Our job is to bring this to the world, and when we don't, that's when the persecution happens.
What does Judgment Day mean to the Kabbalist?
It means a bad day in court.
What is a Kabbalistic interpretation of the Creator testing Job's faith in him?
That's what's happening to us all the time.
How do we build a common mutual cleave for everyone in our group of 10?
Just work at connecting with each other.
How do you know you have reached worlds 1, 2, or 5?
When you don't care.
Is there any spiritual meaning of Ra visiting his students personally?
He doesn't do that.
What text would you recommend to read?
Read Kabbalah for the Student. It's got all kinds of things from authentic texts in there, and you can buy it online. And please post that in there so that they can do that.
One Kabbalah teacher said only men resurrect, not women. Is that true?
That's bullshit.
What is the fastest way up the ladder?
Connect with other people and learn Kabbalah.
Okay, what does it mean to ascend and descend?
it means to be closer or farther away from the desire to have the desire to bestow.
Are we the roots or the branches in Kabbalah?
We are the branches. We're trying to become the roots.
Okay, ding. I can't find my buzzer. That was impressive. I think that was an all-time record. Double
Oh, yeah.
20.
Okay, never do that again.
Nice job.
Thank you, everybody. This is those are great questions. I hope you could feel each other. Certainly could feel you guys and your, what you need. And thank you to the people who joined us on the other platforms. Also, great questions, and I hope I answered them in a way that was like okay for you. Yeah, so getting together and feeling the desires and the questions of other people here is very, very important, because what they're asking is actually you asking, and you couldn't ask it. You needed to know it, but you couldn't. You just couldn't phrase it, and you may have found that people asked things that you were going to ask. But everything that we get from each other. All our desires and the best things and the quality of life itself. I mean, what we value, those things are only available between people. If we don't have a successful connection in society with each other, we can't possibly be happy, let alone wise. And what's wisdom about anyway? It's only, it's about the heart. It's about how we are with each other, and it's what benefit there can be from connection and how to use what we've got correctly. The real work in Kabbalah, I know we have different students at different levels, but the real work is about discovering that quality that connects us. That's where all the beauty and good in life is. And this is what we're trying to master together. Not that I or you should be a master, but that we should be like a good creature, a happy creature in relation to reality, which is this loving upper force that made us and wants us to be able to actually do this, because we won't be happy if we're just taking it. We'll only be happy if we give it. So continue with your studies. Let's keep going. Let's meet again. And Mary's got a few announcements. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you again for joining. And it's so wonderful to see so many of you with your cameras on. Makes a huge difference. So the announcements are the next semester will begin December 29th. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook and you want to sign up for the course, you can do that. Just look for the links in the chat and pay what you wish tuition. If you want to participate in the course tuition or simply support the spreading of the wisdom of Kabbalah, you can do that on the Pay What You Wish page. Also, if you are in Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2, you can get your course book packages with a 20% discount, and you can check the links in the chat for that as well. So thank you again. Wonderful to be together.
We will become together as one. We'll be forever connected. Всю силу любви хотим обрести, объединившись навеки. ולא חשוב מה שקורה בחוץ, כי העיקר נמצא בינינו. Cuando nos unimos juntos, nuestro amor gobernará. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, buscando por cambios. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, acaba, o se vuelva aquí. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, buscando por cambios. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, acaba, o se vuelva aquí. אותה משפחה, אותה הרגשה shine.